Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, the temperature in Minnesota is rising fast. Buckle up for this. There is serious buzz about new blood coming in to stabilize the back end of the defense. There is a wild idea floating around involving a major piece of the offense. There is quarterback drama behind the scenes shaping the offseason. And there is a former player speaking some hard truths. It is the kind that makes the purple and gold fan base uncomfortable. The last one, though, that one is going to catch you off guard. Stick with me. But first, a very quick message. Subscribe to the channel and drop your thoughts in the comments. This is an open space for real discussion. The voice of the fan base always matters. This conversation started quietly, but it picked up steam fast behind the scenes. The Vikings defense showed real heart at the end of last season. There was a strong stretch. There were controlled games. But anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football knows the issue in the secondary does not disappear with effort alone. Youth is missing. Hunger is missing. They need talent that shows up ready to fight. That is where this name started showing up in draft conversations. The setup is straightforward. Minnesota is picking in the middle of the first round. Not at the top, not at the bottom. That uncomfortable middle ground. Still, quality players slide. Analysts have started connecting the dots. A young, fast, aggressive defender has become a real point of debate among Vikings fans everywhere. When his name popped up in mock drafts, eyebrows went up. Avion Terrell. Yes, that last name stands out. You cannot ignore it. There is elite football blood there. But it goes deeper than that. What really matters is how he plays. He sticks to receivers. He applies pressure snap after snap. He does not shy away from contact. He does not disappear in run support. He is the kind of corner who frustrates quarterbacks. And frustrating quarterbacks is something this team has needed for a long time. Being completely honest, I like the idea. He is not perfect. He is not huge. He will lose some jump balls. That happens. But what he brings in instincts, reaction, and intensity more than makes up for it. Especially on a roster that leans too heavily on veterans and end-of-depth chart gambles. The cornerback room needs someone who walks in and says, "This spot is mine." The purple and gold crowd is tired of promises. They have seen high picks fail before. That fear is natural. Everyone remembers. But this profile feels different. Versatile. Comfortable outside. Comfortable inside. He does not look overwhelmed by responsibility. And there are things stats never show. On-field presence. Confidence lining up across from the opponent. Another key point is that he would not be asked to save everything by himself. And that is a good thing. He would come in to contribute. He would grow with the group. The scheme demands aggression. The defensive staff loves bold players. That fit matters a lot. This is the kind of read you only get when you think like a fan, not a spreadsheet. That is why this conversation hits differently. Now tell me in the comments, would you make a first-round pick like this? Or would you go another direction? I really want to hear it. Because if this move happens, it changes the tone of the defense. And it does not stop there. The next story hits an even more sensitive position. That is when the debate really heats up. When I first saw this idea circulating, I stopped and thought, is this just off-season noise or is there real smoke here? Because this is the kind of move that flips everything at once. And we all know Minnesota lives on that thin line between bold and reckless. It starts in Houston. The team won games, got hot, made the playoffs. But their quarterback did not escape criticism. Mistakes in big moments, too many turnovers. And that leads to the question that has the entire league scratching its head. C.J. Stroud is eligible for an extension. If those talks get complicated, things get awkward fast. And when things get awkward in the NFL, someone always tries to swoop in. Albert Breer was the one who raised that possibility. He suggested real tension. He also suggested another team could try to pry him away. Naturally, the Vikings name entered the conversation. The need here is obvious. You cannot go into another season living on hope and prayer. Defend the North does not work when the most important position is a question mark. Now let us talk about what matters to the purple and gold faithful. Stroud is talented. No one disputes that. Arm strength, processing, poise in the pocket on his good days. And he is still young. The issue is the cost. If it is a trade, it will not be cheap. High picks, a full package, future flexibility. And then the contract extension follows. That kind of decision ties your hands for years. Let me be very clear. I would have the conversation, but I would not go in blind. The Vikings offense can support a quarterback. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison create magic with their roots. T.J. Hawkinson is security in the middle. If Stroud arrived, he would not be walking in empty-handed. That is incredibly tempting. But there is a concern I cannot ignore. Stroud struggled in the 2025 playoffs. 8 turnovers is a massive red flag. And the NFL does not forgive mistakes in January. So the real question is this: is he regressing or did he just hit a rough stretch? because there is a big difference between paying top dollar for a player ascending and paying top dollar for one who has already shown cracks. And there is more. If Minnesota pulled this off, the message to the locker room would be loud. We are trying to win now, and patience is over. That changes pressure. That changes the atmosphere. That changes everything. I can already hear half the fan base shouting, "Do it now." The other half says, "Absolutely not." What makes this even hotter is that this topic connects to another. Veteran quarterbacks on the radar, cornerbacks on the market, limited cap space. The next story ties these threads together and brings a heavyweight name into the mix. That is when things really get tense. I always say this. Defense can carry you for weeks, but if the secondary is patched together, it eventually breaks. Even with the defense finishing the year strong, nobody is fooling themselves. This team needs a ready-made contributor, someone who shows up and plays. Then reality hits. The salary cap is tight. When money is tight, you have to choose where to push your chips. In that environment, one name has emerged as a perfect target for Minnesota. This did not come from bar talk. It came from major media. People on the outside looked at the fit and said it makes sense. The player is physical. He has size. He can handle the outside. And he does not panic when the ball is in the air. Jalen Watson, cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Ryan Wilson from CBS Sports floated the idea, and I liked the logic immediately. He talked about a strong market. He talked about a rising price. Then he hit the nerve that gets fans thinking. Imagine Brian Flores getting his hands on this guy. Flores loves corners who press. He loves corners who hit. He loves corners who play fearless football. Watson fits that mold. Being completely honest, this feels like a move that matches the team identity, but it will be a fight. Miami could come hard, the Rams could jump in, and when cash-heavy teams show up, Minnesota feels the squeeze. That is the ugly part. Cuts will be needed, restructures will be needed, creative accounting will be needed, and that always comes with consequences later. Still, if you want to take a real step forward, sometimes you have to pay the price. And this story does not stand alone. It brings a familiar shadow back over the city, a name tied to memory, debate, and that uncomfortable feeling of here we go again. The conversation is about quarterback, and it is not just anyone. Kirk Cousins. Adam Schefter said the expectation is that he will be released by the Falcons before the new league year. When a quarterback like that becomes available, the noise starts immediately. Alec Lewis from The Athletic added that Cousins would be open to returning. That is true if there was genuine interest and if the situation felt right. In other words, the door is not locked. This is where the fan base splits instantly. Some remember the big games. Others remember what was missing. I understand both sides. Let me be clear. Going back to the past can feel comfortable, or it can be a trap. It depends on the plan. It depends on the price. It depends on what this team wants to be in 2026. Look at the mess. You need a corner. You need a quarterback. You have limited cap space, and there are trade rumors everywhere. What would you do? Would you bring in Watson and solve quarterback another way, or would you go back to the veteran route? And keep this in mind. The next story brings another quarterback into play. This time, it is open market. It is high value. And two teams are already out in front. That is when things get messy. Out of nowhere, you look at the market and realize quarterbacks turn into gold rushes fast. When that happens, Minnesota usually shows up with a calculator. But here is the wrinkle. This one is young. He has mobility. He has enough arm talent. And he is coming off a season where, even in a small sample, he turned heads. The name is Malik Willis. The word around the league is that two teams are already leading the chase. The Miami Dolphins and the Arizona Cardinals. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN laid that out clearly, and the reasoning tracks. In Miami, the new leadership has recent ties to people who worked with Willis in Green Bay. In Arizona, there is that familiar coaching and family connection the NFL loves. Those links matter. They do not guarantee anything, but they nudge things forward. Now let us talk about what matters to the fans who live and breathe Vikings football every day. If Willis is really going to cost somewhere between $15 million and $25 million per season, that is starter money. That is not a backup plan. That is saying come compete, and if you win, the job is yours. The Vikings cap situation is not flexible, though. So the question becomes whether you can enter that bidding war without gutting the rest of the roster. Being honest, I like the controlled risk profile. He does not cost draft picks because he is a free agent. That alone is appealing. But he is also not the kind of quarterback you ask to throw 40 times every Sunday, and you cannot pretend nothing will go wrong. Kevin O'Connell's offense relies on timing. It relies on rhythm. It relies on anticipation. If Willis comes in, he has to grow in that area quickly. At the same time, I get why Minnesota would look at him. The other rumored options usually require trades. Kyler Murray, Mac Jones, Geno Smith, Derek Carr. Every one of those conversations starts with what is the price. And then you lose picks, flexibility, and future leverage. With Willis, you pay cash. That is it. It sounds simple, but it is not. There is another layer that hits the purple and gold crowd hard. If Miami and Arizona are leading, it likely means they are ready to move on from their current quarterbacks. That sets off a league-wide domino effect. When those dominoes fall, Minnesota could benefit, or Minnesota could be left watching. I know some fans look at this and say it does not fit us. That is fair. Others see a 27-year-old quarterback arriving hungry and think maybe O'Connell can unlock something. That is the gamble. Just remember this. When quarterbacks become competition, locker rooms feel it. And the next story is about a former Viking talking about what really happened here. That one hits the chest. My chest tightened when I saw the image. Honestly, some moments hit fans without warning. The scene was this. A former Vikings quarterback lifting the Lombardi Trophy in a different uniform. Sam Darnold, Super Bowl champion with the Seattle Seahawks. It feels like an alternate universe. And the worst part is, the what if that follows you. What if he had stayed? What if the team had stayed patient? It is infuriating. Then someone from the recent past stepped in and said what many did not want to hear. Nick Mullins, who spent multiple years in Minnesota, spoke bluntly about how the blame for the late-season collapse landed on Darnold. He said the judgment was too harsh. 2 weeks earlier, Darnold was viewed as a top-dollar future quarterback. Then 2 bad games happened, and suddenly everything flipped. Mullins called that unfair. Let me be very clear. I understand the criticism. Football is collective. It always has been. Offensive line breakdowns, a run game that disappears, defensive lapses at the wrong time. The quarterback takes the hit because it is easier. But there is another truth. In Minnesota, the quarterback carries pressure that never stops. When January arrives, excuses do not survive. Mullins twisted the knife a little more by pointing out that Darnold is now on a more complete team. A strong run game, a stable structure. You look at Minnesota and ask yourself if the team let go of the guy right when the fit could have been better. That is what hurts the fans who live and breathes Vikings football. It is not just that he won. It is that he won and everything around him looks functional. This is not just emotional. It sends messages to the locker room. It sends messages to the front office. It sends messages to the next quarterback who walks in. The standard changes fast here. Today, you are the answer. Tomorrow, you are the problem. I have seen that cycle too many times, and I will say this openly. This story leaves a bitter taste. Because it is not just about Darnold. It is about recent identity. It is about struggling to close the door when things tighten up. And it raises a massive question. How does this organization truly decide who deserves continuity when the noise gets loud? There is another layer. Darnold's title puts pressure on every decision the Vikings make in the coming weeks. If there is a quarterback trade, fans will judge it instantly. If there is a free agent gamble, comparisons will come. And if leadership chooses patience through the draft and development, there will be accusations of fear. The clock does not stop, and the North does not wait. Sit with that feeling, because after all of this, the conversation becomes about choice, courage, and what this team wants to be going forward. Take a breath with me. Today was one of those days that leaves the purple and gold fan base with a knot in its stomach. We talked about Avion Terrell as fresh blood for the secondary. We explored the wild idea of C.J. Stroud and the possibility of Jalen Watson fitting with Brian Flores. Kirk Cousins resurfaced in the conversation once again, and the final gut punch was watching Sam Darnold win a championship elsewhere, with Nick Mullins reminding everyone how easy it is to blame one man. Here is my bold take. The year 2026 will separate the teams with a real plan from the ones just reacting. Drop your thoughts. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings. Let's go.